I know that feeling. Easy.
Steady.
Watch it. Welcome back to the Tuesday, October 26, 2021, regular meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. We are on item 18, redistricting public hearing. I'll bring it back to the board. We're working, if we could bring up map 1 for our basis to work off of. I believe Doug is on the line. And we got a nice overlay of the current districts there, which is nice. I wish I could do that with my community mapper. Ladies? We're good?
Hey Doug, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. So we're ready to proceed?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Unless there's a board member that has a comment to start, I'll start it off. Can we see an overlay of Rancho Calaveras over the top of the area just to see how close the boundaries are? And can we zoom in, please?
So what you see is the layer has all the subdivisions that we have on record. And so you'll see there's Rancho Calaveras and then immediately La Contenta and then immediately Gold Creek. So on the right-hand side, that's not all.
Right.
Okay.
So there's, over there on the left-hand side where it goes into the purple quite a ways, there's, can we zoom in on that area specifically so we can see the lines better for Rancho and I believe Hillville Estates? Mr. Todd?
Valley Hills.
Valley Hills Estates. So, and then there's another one right there in HOA that you have outlined. Can you go to the edge of Rancho Calaveras there for me? I mean, which one's Rancho Calaveras? I believe it's that lower right line. Am I correct? That's all
Yep.
Rancho Calaveras?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And then basically that part of Rancho Calaveras is cut off because of the way the census blocks were done and partially the juggle on the population numbers.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to.
Yeah, so the black lines are the subdivisions. I'm not sure if you can see that, but
Yeah.
The black line is subdivision.
Right. Yes. Right now, the red line is the district line.
Yes.
The red is the current district.
the red line is your current soup district.
No, that's the one map. The all in red and all in purple are the current districts, correct?
The red line that you see, that is the current supervisoral districts. The colored districts that you see behind it is the draft one.
Okay, understood. We have a small section cut off there in both renditions of Rancho Calaveras.
So go back to that section, excuse me, go back to that section that we just zoomed in on, and
Can we overlay the census blocks into that so I can see them with numbers?
are you sure that purple spot there, you have black lines for a subdivision. Yeah, that area right there,
Yeah.
that's not Rancho, because you got that included in the big black lines of the subdivision.
The purple and the red side where they're in this, like this, is all Rancho Calaveras. So that's what people are calling West Rancho Calaveras, that's in the purple currently. It's on the opposite side of the highway, 26. So that's still Rancho Calaveras. What's not Rancho Calaveras is where his pointer is. Doug, can you put your pointer over the top of, yeah, that's not Rancho Calaveras.
That's not Rancho Calaveras.
That's-
No.
That, now his pointer is on Gold Creek, and then, and then that's La Contenta.
That's La Contenta, right.
Right, and the red line's existing.
Where that one subdivision in that purple area crosses over the red line, can we zoom in real close on that?
Closer, or?
Because I believe that red line is Crestview Drive.
That's Rocky Road and Ross Drive. Or
It kind
following.
of, it goes, they have it labeled as that, but it goes into Crestview, just like you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like all the same road.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a gate there.
Yeah.
So do we know what that census, what numbers are in that black area that's in the purple?
113, and that's, it's,
113?
I believe I'm looking at the right one, or it's the 376 right here, one of those two.
Yeah, that purple area right there within that subdivision.
Well, there's all of these,
Right.
Yeah, all of those. What do they add up to?
all of those. Right, but
Doug?
again, we have to, yes?
Can you show them how the tool works for adjusting population so that they don't have to be over here adding and subtracting?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
I am capable.
I saw you starting to like it, I'm like, let's let the tool do it.
Right.
Should I put my shoes back on? So I was trying to add.
I left my cap in the truck.
So they're wondering if they tried to take, I think this is where they're going, if they tried to take the population that's inside Rancho Calaveras, but not the block that cuts out, how much population is in there? So I don't know if the easiest thing to do would be to move it to unassigned so we could see the population numbers.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I know it was.
A little bit.
blocked, but
Okay.
see, that's the problem is these blocks.
And they don't fit perfect. So, see, once you click on that big one up there, that's a huge amount of population. And we start going into the other HOA that you're concerned about.
Yeah.
So, all in all, I know, considering Rancho Calaveras, I want to keep it at it whole, but it's not possible while considering other population centers moving forward. I want to keep it as whole as possible, in my opinion, but I'm willing to concede some outskirts things with La Contenta and that small area a little bit back and forth, just because there's no real solution for that with the way the population or census blocks are drawn. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Toffanelli? Because this is both a concern of both of ours, and keeping our communities of interest together. That's why I want to bring that up. And also, I'm looking at the two different, if you go down to the west side of the county, there is a significant area and that was given to District 1 from District 5. I'm not sure what the population blocks are, but yeah, there's population down there that's 211, 59, going down to Highway 26 that were originally, let me make sure I'm looking at the right color here on my lines on my computer, yeah. Okay, no, that was moved into, so District 1 moved into that area. Never mind, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm trying to see how we can move population back and forth to at least fix some of the lines there. But we also, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Are you suggesting the line follows the highway, down Rancho?
The new one does, down the highway lower towards the county line towards San Joaquin County, but never mind. I was thinking something there and I'm wrong. Never mind. I was thinking of one of the other drafts. Yeah. I'm gonna stop.
Is that the only area that you had a concern in, is that one little area that had Rancho in it?
Well, there's an area also in La Cantena where, I believe it is Hart Vixen goes all the way down to Silver Rapids. This population block right here of 236, it got split from, La Cantena got split from District 1 to District 5 in the past, and now they're picking up some of it.
They are.
And going back the other way where it's splitting off part of Rancho back the other way. So, I mean, it's a trade-off, one way or the other. And there's other areas in Rancho that are, I think that's the biggest census block right there where it says 236. That's half Rancho, half La Cantena, going from Vista del Lago to Silver Rapids. Kind of between Hart Vixen and Huckleberry. There's a lot of population in there though.
We can do the same thing to see the amounts.
Yeah,
In that area, it probably is easy enough to continue it following Vista del Lago, which is an easy split. It just splits up La Contenta. The majority of those blocks, the subdivision actually is La Contenta. That is why they got pushed the way they did, because the majority in there is La Contenta. So we are trying to keep the subdivision intact as possible. But
I do have to say, going through the comments, which I'll probably drum up some more comments from La Cantena now saying this, very few comments about La Cantena being split up, many for Rancho Calaveras. So
at this point, to what we're looking at to date, I would say that's accurate. That's not with me
Right.
taking into consideration anything that's
I
come
probably
since we
just
posted.
drummed up some comments coming from La
So
Cantena.
that's why I'm like, I haven't looked at the public comments as in depth that came in after we posted the agenda as I did the others, because the others I went through to make sure we addressed every single one, and I haven't
Right.
done that with the new one. So
Well, and that's another example of a population block not necessarily considering communities of interest at the same time. So we can understand why there isn't a road going back and forth in between those two areas. Unless, you know, the closest is Antonovich, which isn't really right either. Those are the biggest areas of concern for me, Mr. Toffenelli. Pushing back from Berkesee to keep Rancho Calaveras whole and into La Cantena there. If we can find a way to make up for the population loss, which it's a huge amount of population really when we're considering 9,000, what's our ultimate number?
9,061.
9,061. We're looking at well over 500 people there, so
1, 2,
we'd have to make
4,
up for that
5,
somewhere.
6. Yeah, well over, almost 6.
Right? But just so you know, that's my consideration moving forward, to keep Rancho as whole as possible. I understand the complications behind it with the way the census blocks have been put forward, so I'm bending on it. I'm willing to give up some population, possibly past 26, going to Milton Road or whatever we need to do to be able to put it contiguously to make that whole, as long as you have the appetite for it. it would take some work though. I'll stop. Those are my concerns. I'll give any other board member the opportunity to voice theirs.
Further,
There's a major population disparity here compared to some of the other draft maps. It's within the 5% criteria most definitely, but
so Doug, did you just put them all back? You did, thank you. Was that the intent, was to put them back where they were for now, and we're just gonna go? Okay.
Continue the conversation, then we can consider on where we want to go after all board members have spoken, is my opinion. The rest of the board can disagree with me. Ms. Callaway, or Mr. Garamendi, I see you reaching for the button. Ms. Callaway, do you have any concerns, questions?
Murphy's Pines, Murphy's Ranch, that should be in preferably D3 versus D2, since the access road that everybody uses is French Gulch, as Mickey described. I know there's supposed to be back roads, but everyone I know that lives in there uses French Gulch Road.
And that one, I know exactly the population in that area is 190, because that one gave me heartburn to move over to District 2. So I don't know if we need to go through that exercise of highlighting it, because
No,
it's 190. So whatever we do there, we need 190 to make it up somewhere else.
Got it. I'm sure one of my colleagues would be happy to give D2 190. Otherwise, the current supervisor would have to leave his district and come through D3, which is fine if he wants to spend money to get to Murphy's Pines.
Is there anything further, Ms. Callaway?
I'm just hurt that Mickey doesn't want to be in D2. You know, I thought she was a friend.
She is mine.
But I'm just going to take this opportunity to rate, that is actually a really interesting, maybe only to lawyers, legal question. I think that it would be preferable if we have a road, public road that's paved and frequently traversed that connects districts. But I think technically, so long as it's touching, I don't know that we need to have a road, but I agree with you that all things being equal, it would be preferable.
And it actually does have a road where it doesn't have to go through. It's just not a well-traveled
Not the
road.
most
But
traveled
we
road.
did follow the road. Doug is
Okay.
pointing it out right
And
now.
so that would absolutely
Yeah.
meet the statutory criteria.
No, we did follow a road.
Mr. Garamendi?
No, I think Marita's correct. I mean, that is part of Murphy's. Everybody I know from that community describes themselves as being from Murphy's. And I guess if you're from Murphy's, you don't want to be from anywhere else. So,
The bubble?
the bubble. I like where we're going. I was very encouraged to hear that it's not a statutory requirement that we have exactly within 5%. It is a preference, and we want to do that. I have cut this map 9 ways to Sunday, and I cannot figure out, without breaking up the integrity of several communities of interest, how to make D2 fit within that 5%. Just being frank, maybe, I'm sure there are people with better ideas, but especially when we get around the city of San Andreas, that is a community of interest. We need to keep it together as much as we can. If maybe somebody knows a better way, but I've got a whole lot of ground and not a lot of people. It already takes me over 3 hours to hit the corners of my district. And so, that is a consideration also, is geographic dispersion. I might, there's some points that I think are relatively easy that we could do around the edges of San Andreas to put into that. I think some of these need to go back into D1 in particular, but is bringing them into D2. Certainly to the east of Calaveras Road, there's a census block with 148 people in there, Doug. If you could drill us down a little bit. Okay, so we hold right there. So we've got that one. If you go due north of that, there's a census block of 11, and then a census block of 13 above that. Those are, I think, I would hope that Gary might agree that those are peripheral to the community and might add to our totals. If you went to the north side of town, Doug, can you scroll to the north? There's a census block with 31 right there. That I think we could add in to D2, but we're still not getting close to the numbers that we're going to need. And I am wide open to ideas on how we can do this while still maintaining the community of interest. It sounds like the only thing we might, and those are things that open us up to liabilities. The overrepresentation's a possibility, but Gary, this is your town, you understand it better than I do.
Well, we're looking at draft number 1 that's up there. You're talking about taking those numbers from there, but according to draft 1, District 2 is already within 1.6%.
Right. I was concerned that particularly when you get down to, Doug, can you scroll us down to Mountain Ranch Road and basically around Government Center? I was concerned that taking out that block.
So you want to add back in those blocks and then take those other blocks that you just talked about? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to
I
add,
want to make sure I understood what you're saying.
I wanted to add the 271 back to D1 and the one that's on the Southern Gateway.
So we have this saved as a new draft. Can we just go ahead and make the changes so that you guys see the population changes as we go? Can we do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
With this type of work, if the two supervisors agree on how they're working forward on this, and then we'll work from there. I mean, we can delete it later.
I want to try to make an effort to get into the bounds, but I also want to be very cautious about what we do to San Andreas.
Okay, so if I am clear on this, we're taking the block that has oak shadows in it. That's the easiest for me to
To
describe.
567?
And we're moving it to purple.
To D1, yes.
Yes.
To D1, and that takes away 567 from him.
And then I was suggesting that we put the 271, which is the block above that, which is just right here, Gold Hunter, and put that back into D1.
And that's the subdivision across from the library.
I'm a little, right. I don't think you put in the 576 one, which is the Southern Gateway.
Can you put Toyanza, the 83, and the 576 back into D1?
See, that looks more like San Andreas, but I don't know where we come up with numbers to make it balance.
Okay, so can we tell, if we make those changes, what population-wise does that, from the draft map we're looking at, that had 8,920,
Yeah, what's that?
what does that put District 2 at now that we have to make an adjustment for?
Can we see the populations?
You should, I think, yeah, let's put the Murphy's Pine change in too. Then we just see where we're at.
So we brought District 2 down to 7,999. So let's go move Murphy's Pines into District 3. But it should take us roughly to 7,800.
I get the feeling you've already done this, Becca, trying to figure this out.
Right,
We're just
roughly 7,800.
retracing the steps, the frustration you already experienced.
I've done it a few times.
It's okay.
There's a reason we're going directly to draft 1B, because draft 1A didn't get published.
What's Mark Twain say? The man who holds a cat by the tail learns a lesson he can learn in no other way. All right, so what's the damage?
What's the total damage, what's he at now with those changes?
7,810.
7,000 what?
810.
7, 8, 10.
And the range we need to be is, 5% is 8608 on the bottom side, right? Yeah.
No, it's now like 8612 or something because of the.
8612?
Yeah, I just made that up in my head, so I might be off, but somewhere in there.
So we're looking at about
Could you do me a
800
favor, Doug, and run the tool also has a review check for integrity. And so even if we're within a 5% range, if the overall range is off, it tells us and says like, hey, your maximum deviation might be okay, which is the 8608, which is actually like 8610 or something, 11 now. But it'll still tell us the overall range is off because the disparity between one district is so high and another district is so low. So like in this case,
right.
it will say District 3 is too high compared to District 2. Like, because if the range is off and it's split between like 4 districts, that might be acceptable. But if it's truly just split between 2 districts, that's when it becomes a problem.
Could you take me back to San Andreas, Doug? Doug, can we go back to San Andreas? I mean, I gotta make up 800 votes, 800 residents,
About
it's
800,
tough.
About 800, yeah.
And then they'll put Mr. Toffanelli down.
Doug, take me to
Yeah,
North.
then he can
I've
push
already-
my way.
But I've already gained, what is District 1 with this configuration? Because,
Really high.
yeah, it's real high.
So is there anything around, there was a, what, an 80 some odd up on the far north of the town? 80, well, that's already in there, excuse me. The 31, you see that 31 up there, right there? Maybe we add,
Yep, that 31, that'll do it. Can you move the 31 into
It's a
District
start.
2?
We count in order, 31.
okay, so
32.
now we're at,
Yeah, you're at 7850.
all right, that was the easy part.
I agree.
Go ahead over by Campo Seco.
Can't get down to Campo because we get into Burson, that same population block that Rebecca was pointing out.
Well, because that one, and I don't know that I need to share draft 1A
Person?
that we put together. It literally came and picked up Campo Seco and then followed the highway all the way out of the county. And that's what it required that way to pick up the population of what is lost here in San Andres.
Gary, you know this dirt. What are you thinking?
Thinking you two are crawling down a rabbit hole that we're not going to be able to come back from.
Close, we're picking away at it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gary, you can respond for yourself.
Well, Campo Seco, if you look at Campo Seco, there's some blocks there. There's not a whole lot of population. Trying to draw it in here. Can we put
That's
Rancho
great, too.
Seco up?
Rancho Seco.
Campo.
I mean, Campo.
I don't want a nuclear power plant.
Can we put Baja?
Baja Calaveras.
Football.
Can we put Campo Seco up, please? That area. See, there's not a lot of population that you're gonna be able to make up unless you come all the way down to Wallace. Towards Wallace, yeah.
That's,
On Comanche Parkway.
we're getting,
And then you
Pretty.
get towards Highway 88 going out that way, there's some population out that way.
You know, Borders Valley Springs, I'm not sure if it's the area of influence, but there's that big one that was 292 people.
how about, I guess if I added, what is, right on the edge of, I think we're getting, that's really getting geographically spread out. We head down that way. Gary, there's this one piece back on San Andreas. We're still picking away at it, but there's 250 going down Pope up Main, north on, was it Gold Strike?
Oh, this,
Doug, it's,
I'm sorry, am I in the wrong place?
yeah, Doug, scroll south a little bit. It's right, right there, to the right, excuse me, Gold Strike, your cursor's on it. To the right,
The 251.
251,
That
right there.
one, this, okay. You want to take it out, or?
I would ask the sitting supervisor what he thinks about that.
The 251,
That's Gold Strike East.
I see 250.
250 even, yeah.
That's 250.
That still takes out part of the township right back behind Pope Street.
Well, yeah, up behind Pope Street, up Murray Creek Road.
Right.
And the elementary. But it does get us up to 802. Which still,
That includes Pope Street, the north side of Pope Street, that divides Pope Street right down the center, going up by the school.
right. Pope Street.
Divides
down to-
Lewis.
Lewis.
It divides Lewis. This is Pope down here.
Okay.
That's trying to get elementary school, but they aren't going to close. Yeah, I want the vote go on.
I
It
know.
goes out both,
I don't question your
Right.
credentials.
Hard truth.
it goes out Gold Strike Road.
Mhm. So it goes up, goes Pope, all the way Lewis,
All the way
Payne.
to Howard, by Howard, where it's in your district anyway. Plug it in and see what there's an additional 31 there also up at the top.
I think
I think we already got that one.
We already did that.
Doug, you want to put
Okay.
that 250 in my basket?
It's there,
He did.
How'd we do? What's our number now?
8,092.
8,000?
8,092.
We're making progress.
All right, let's work on District 4. Are you touching District 4 anywhere?
Not a lot of bodies off Pole Station, Gary.
You know, that city thing was a little bit below a community of interest.
You are down there by Angels. There's this pool down there.
How many, how much, what is the percentage are we off on 8,092?
There's a block there with 202 in it by Cosgrave Road off 49.
Rebecca?
I'm sorry, can you say
I
that
have to get
again?
a calculator.
I'll get it.
There's also 95 on the other side of the highway.
202.
202 and 95.
That's big.
9%.
That's not necessarily underneath the area of influence of the city, is it?
Wait a second, where were we going?
Cosgrove Road.
You talking where 49 splits the 95 and the 202? Is that correct, Mr. Toffanelli?
Yeah, 95.
That's right outside of Angels Camp, Ms. Fullendorf.
Cosgrave Creek is not.
I see a disparity here where the two easterly districts have well over the middle line in population. And they're not willing to give anything up to bring, I'm sorry, Dogtown Road?
That backed up in the Dogtown Road, and that's
I
where
see
the
that.
numbers are coming from, and no one related to, unfortunately, B1 or B2, because it's coming off of the Dogtown Road.
Here.
Yeah, it is. It's
So
short
it's
part
coming
of-
off with the Dogtown Road,
Short
and,
part of Dogtown Road there.
and that, one of my notes of bullets of concern, because either way, it either goes into D2 or D1, and that's concerning, because they're more relatable to the city off downtown versus what you're looking at from Highway 49.
Relatable.
And on that side of
Can you
downtown.
define that for me? Because they're close to Angels Camp, so they're relatable?
You know,
Can you put the block on when you, can you highlight that block?
Will you, Doug, to turn on the sphere of influence for the city, do you have
That's
And
the-
this map, what's currently on here is not reflective to what the city brought in today, just to be noted.
It's definitely.
It's not, the overlay that the city brought in today for comment is not reflective in this current map for this sphere of influence.
Doug, could you turn on the sphere of influence, and then, what else did you just ask for, Amanda?
To bring out that 95 block that touches Dogtown Road.
Gary, I'm sorry, I'm switching here. What about going south, what about going west of 49? It looks like Church Street, there's 191 between Church and
The
Pool.
heart, that's cutting into the heart. That's
Yeah,
all.
that goes right down to the
Center
middle, doesn't it?
Drive.
Goes right down in the middle.
There's
Get your
apartment
fire
houses,
station.
Apartment houses there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where that's gonna
What about the 202?
be. 202,
202.
The one that, the census block that runs into the city, the 202 there,
Yeah.
between the
Okay,
purple.
That's the Capello Park issue, huh?
Yeah, right there. That's the one that goes in and picks up Capella Park.
That's not going to work.
well,
But we still have the same problem with the 19.
So the 19 in draft 2 was moved from the, District 2 and put into District 4. In this variation, it's here. So
still, that 19 we just moved earlier, that Jack talked about.
no, this one is, that 19 has been there.
Yeah, I ran down this, oh, sorry. I ran down this rabbit hole myself, trying to look at this, and more often than not, I come to the conclusion, especially after hearing Amanda's comment to the area of influence to Angels Camp, I came to that conclusion in my head myself. And more often than not, to make up the numbers for District 2, they end up incurring into District 1. District 1 therefore goes into District 5, and horseshoeing around part of District 5. And then District 5 possibly going down into the Copperopolis area, which creates problems on that area of, or community of interest. All in all, I mean, just, we talked about draft 4. There was a comment by someone earlier about keeping Copperopolis on the one side of the county, and they said they like draft 4, but draft 4 includes both sides of the county into the same area as Copperopolis, so it's complicated, but all in all, that's where I see the dominoes falling to make up for population running down. Right now, we're starting out with Plan 1. The numbers are way more on the east side of the county with District 3 and 4. And we start off by, and I agree with Marita's position, Murphy's Pine should be part of that area. Those are the people that are around. They bought on that side of the county because that's where they like to live. And then all of a sudden we start throwing more numbers on the other side and weighing more heavily on the disparity on our population numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think-
And this is where, right now, the rabbit, sorry, Gary, I'll stop.
Okay. can we go to the area over by Party Reservoir? And on the west side of Party Reservoir, there's a block that says 130. That actually, the way this is drawn, District 2 stops right there at that block.
Gary, I think that if you zoom in more, that's a 13 and a 0. So
it's not 130.
it's not 130. There's definitely not that many
It looked
people
like
living right
130
there.
here, yeah.
I did that.
You found it.
For the state
You
of
go
I'll
practice,
take the
down
13.
I'll take the
Does it-
13.
does it
Just
not
keep
look
adding them up.
Does it not look like 130?
It does when you zoomed out. I saw that at first. I was like, wow, how did those people move there?
Okay, and then there's another block of 7.
Yeah, you end up horseshoeing everything.
But that makes that continuous around there, so there's another 20.
He's going to need that 292 south of Campo Seco.
Hey, you know what? I think that's
Becky,
getting too far
For
out
the
there.
sake of
It is.
this
I know, I agree.
exercise,
I agree.
add the
Take-
95 into him and get rid of and then put the
I don't
19
know how to
back
do
in.
this without
Flip
breaking
flop the
the
95
sentence.
and the 19.
Okay.
That cuts right out.
Doug, did you get that?
When we get back over there.
Okay.
Okay. So I can tell you there is a variation of this map that was 1A that never did get published. And the way to make the population up, we followed all those back roads all the way to the end of the county. And we can do it.
Oh, hang on.
But it
You mean
seems-
all the way down to Wallace from?
Yep, and
That's-
Wallace picks up.
All
So
right.
it is possible, but
And-
I'm just saying if you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, I have a
Not especially
variation.
contiguous.
It's 1A, and I didn't publish it because I didn't
Yeah,
think it
I
was a
think that
good
is-
option.
Well, and then as soon as you do that, Mr. Toffnelli needs to make up for the disparity in the numbers he just lost, and then we have to work our
Well,
way.
right now, because District 1 took all of San Andres, he's actually too high. So we do need to do something to pull numbers out of District 1 right now. But you're right, you've got the point. As soon as we adjust numbers right here, we got to shift and do something somewhere else. So District 2 is down, District 3 and 4 are high, and District 1 and 5 got to make up the difference somehow, either pulling from District 3, because even if we left District 3 exactly as it is, I think technically the population is still too high. So keeping Vallecito, if we leave Murphy's Pines, to me, the only really option that makes sense is then to pull Vallecito down, to pull those numbers. But then District 4 is too high, and we've got to figure out where are we pulling over by Copper to make District 4 make sense. So we've got Angels Camp and we've got Copper, and they're both high in population. And if we keep them together, we're going to have to cut away at them. They can't stay like that. And the same goes for District 3. If we keep everything that wants to be identified with Arnold, Murphy's, all of that down the hill, we have to start carving away somewhere because their numbers are both too high. So I'm fine continuing this exercise. I am saying I've done most of what you've suggested already, and I have no problem, but so that you see.
I agree.
But it's just a back and forth. So we're either chipping away somewhere or we're just going to decide, you know what? Designated census places are lower down the list. It's a higher priority to make population equal. And maybe a township that we don't want split has to have 2 representatives. I've gotten a lot of questions from people about what this really impacts, and they're concerned their taxes are going to change. All kinds of things will change. All that it means is you have more representation. So you could have 2 supervisors that your designated census place identifies with, or you could have 1. But what really changes is who you're going to vote on as the supervisor, not the other things you identify with. So I mean, I'm more than willing to keep the practice of let's chip away here and there and see what happens. But at some point, we might want to be open to, we're going to have to split something up because population is a higher priority.
And just to echo, I mean, I agree with everything Ms. Turner just said, and I understand it's a very different county with a very different, but I think it's an illustrative example. If you look at the current map of San Joaquin County and their supervisorial districts, because of population and where the population centers are, the city of Stockton, city limits, is split between like 3 or 4 supervisorial districts. So we do have to look at where population, I mean, that's why we're encountering this problem, right? Population is concentrated in certain areas, and if that's concentrated in a city, in a CDP, in a township, it may have to get split. That's the reality of it, for better or worse.
So,
Well, and understanding that with everything considered with the districts and everything, that's why I said in the beginning, although it's kind of crazy looking, map 4 makes the most sense to me. But that's,
Let's,
that creates its own problem.
we already got work going here.
the primary thing I would suggest, though, like looking at this, and it's interesting to watch you guys do it because I've been where you're sitting, and it's kind of fun to be over here. I would suggest that since neighborhoods is a higher priority, if we ended up splitting anything, I'm not suggesting that's what we do, but if we did, we followed something like the highway so that we weren't actually splitting up the neighborhoods. We were keeping the neighborhoods intact and just splitting a town. So that would just be my one suggestion. Do you want me to go over and have him go back to District 4 and make that change before we move on?
Well, I'm wondering
Yes, please.
if we go to the D3, D4, it might settle some of their concerns if we can
If we
figure
could,
out our numbers.
if we could split Vallecito by the highway. By
You're gonna
Highway
fix our
4.
problem with
It sounds, Doug, like we're going into Vallecito
And
before.
when we talk about the highway, we're
We'll come
talking
back to San
about
Andreas.
Highway
4.
4. We are not talking Pitt, we're talking,
The highway,
That's right.
for real.
North and south.
Before we do that, do you want us to move the 19, the census block,
You cannot send me.
with the 19 in
yeah, I
it?
mean, like this, for the sake of this exercise, yeah, let's,
Can you
Go
move
with
the
what we
19 that dips down, the District 2, and put it to
We have to figure
4?
out what we're going to do on San Andreas. I don't know where else to go.
Thank you. So it sounds like everything south of Highway 4, we're moving Vallecito into District 4, and everything north of Highway 4 is staying in District 3. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, let's just
3
show
and
it.
4?
That's
How'd that
Vallecito, right?
You start doing from these,
No, not
this
from that
here,
side.
to that there,
It actually
he just
goes
ends
to the
up
back
with the
and
same
then-
problem as you later. So, I mean, you can't split up San Andreas and make the solution.
You find me bodies.
Well, you find bodies there and there, because that's where they are right now.
So that's good for District 3. District 4 is now pretty high. But District 3 is in a very acceptable range, it appears. District 4 is now 9,560, so ideally we need to lose at least 400.
You have to reduce 4.
So
We're-
go back to that 95 and that neighborhood.
This is going the right direction.
Speak for yourself, babe.
Put those two where they should go, I guess it'd be D2, right?
Which one?
The
Those-
19 and the 95.
The 19,
19 and the 95.
oh, put those two into D2?
Yeah.
So 95 and 19 to D2.
I'm sorry, but I don't.
Oh my God.
If you look at this,
Hold on one second, sorry.
What happened to the numbers there?
there's 567.
Um,
and then-
We're at 94.45.
Mhm. And they cut right in the
And
center
you put
file,
front
they get
goals in the
83.
D3, right?
Look at that, they say you can't.
They put an island out there.
Yeah.
You put front goals and Derby in the D3, right? Already?
Yeah, that's the Murphy's Pines area, is that what you're referencing? And then Murphy's Pines meets up with French Golds and Darby Russell.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
that-
they were all grouped together as being called Murphy's Pines.
okay.
So,
But see, so that's what I'm concerned about. And while the argument is having more representation, I'm concerned with too much representation with the city's sphere of influence and potential annexation based on the map that they turned in today. And that's why I get hesitant on that 95 and that 19. It makes sense from your end, but from the other end, that's what I see.
It
And I'm
doesn't-
open to be flexible, but that's what I get concerned about.
And Amanda, it makes sense in a numerical calculation, but you're right. I mean, I'm going to be bordering on Valley Springs, San Andreas, and Angels all in the same. I mean, geographic compactness has to count for something, right?
Pretty far down the list.
And it does, but it's, yeah,
After
exactly,
numbers.
lower down the list.
I mean, this takes me right into, virtually into Angels.
Yeah, it's right at the high school, right there, at Gardner Lane and Murphy Grade.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Murphy's Grade Road.
So Altaville's back way.
And then it takes you all that country along French Gulf.
Maria's stomping ground,
I- I agree.
station there. Marita went to work.
But
I
then
mean-
if we, so the other, just for the purpose of exercise, say you take those two out, the 19 and the 95, you swip it with the 202 for Gary, and he's right into Capello Park, and with the build out for Habitat for Humanity gonna be. And you take in that whole population of Angels for the annexation. So I guess the question becomes, do you want to represent the city as well?
I love the City of Angels. There's nothing wrong with the City of Angels. But this is right within this sphere of influence and the direction that, as I understand, Angels would want to grow, if it did want to grow.
And that's why I was looking at the draft 4 map, is because it reflected the comment, at least being more selfish on our end, it reflected the comments of the public to keep those 3 communities intact as a whole. I don't think anyone cared who the rep was. It was mostly keeping them whole and not split, was the way I was looking at it.
Something to consider after population.
I have a question, which I just noticed on this map. We go to the San Andreas, and we go to the 567 that we discussed putting back into District 1 in order to keep San Andreas whole. If you go over to Toyanza, where Toyanza is, there's a cell there, a census block with 83, that's right in the middle of Toyanza. So we have to include that in the 567, otherwise you have a cell there.
It's in there.
Yeah, so I don't see how,
So you might
I
as
don't even
well
know how
consider-
that came about. How did they determine to do split? They say you can't.
They just follow rows. So to create the census blocks can be islands. Just when use them to draw your final districts, that can't be an island. So you might as well consider the census block is actually 650.
Yeah, correct,
Yeah.
exactly correct.
I mean, to be frank, if I'm going to share, and it's hard to imagine that 200 that Amanda was pointing out isn't being part of Angels Camp. I'd rather share with San Andreas than Angels. It's closer, our people are back and forth. I mean, that's a whole nother school district, utility district, everything.
So where does Mr. Toffanelli pick back up his population after we work through San Andreas?
I'm going after Rancho.
I think that's where we're gonna have to move in and look at Port Station,
And
down in
even,
Salt Springs.
So you're gonna follow Pool Station down to District 4?
I mean, I don't know what else to make
I mean, is that a consideration?
Anything is a consideration, but even with splitting San Andres, that's good, we still need to come and address District 4, because they just picked up Vallecito and they're high, so we still need to pull
We
something
still need
away.
to take care of that first,
Right.
Yeah.
and then see where all the chips fall.
Okay, if you push,
Can I make one question and make it clear? If she's bringing up District 4 map and Mr. Stopper is bringing up District 4 map, which basically cuts 3 supervisors out of where they live,
Traffic.
out of the districts that they represent. So it's my understanding that we would still continue to represent, I would just represent District 1, Jack 2, and Amanda 4,
Further
but we
in,
would no longer live in it, and we'd be representing a district that would.
so you
When
would,
the elections come around,
you couldn't run
there
again.
there would be no supervisor in those 3 districts that's sitting supervisor rerunning. They would have to go into that new supervisory district as
So this works, never seen it for a supervisor level, but it happens on the Assembly and Senate level a lot. What happens is you serve the remainder of your term until it ends, and then the incumbent would be figured by if there was another supervisor that already was a supervisor. So in this instance, draft 4, is that the one that's Murphy's, Angels, and then, okay. In this instance, say, Amanda is moved to District 3. Marita serves out the remainder of her term. You're still, so to be honest, I'm not supposed to take into consideration where you guys live.
I was gonna say, legal disclaimer, we can't look at this and join them out.
When I drew the draft, I didn't necessarily pay attention to who I kicked out of their district. But what would happen is then if there would potentially be no incumbent for the seat.
Virtually no.
However, if there was a situation where one got moved to a different district, they could potentially be considered an incumbent, but that would need to look at legal review and everything else. For assembly districts, when you get moved from one district to another and the incumbent still runs again, the incumbent could move to the new district, and because there was no unless there was 2 incumbents in that district, the one that got switched could potentially be considered the incumbent.
Yeah, I don't have the answer as to who would call themselves the incumbent in all of these various scenarios, but you're absolutely correct, Supervisor Tofinelli, that you all finish out, regardless of what happens with redistricting, you each finish out the remainder of this term as you are, and then would have to run in your new district if you were now living in a new district.
So we would be representing, just, the map 4 completely separates everything out. So I would be District 1, living in person, but representing up in the areas that it covers up there.
Right, for the remainder of this term, you would not live in your district,
Yeah,
right?
the new District 1.
You know, to me, draft 4 is just crazy talk. So it's good creativity. I want to go back to Angels Camp if we can.
Closest on numbers, that's just the only reason I bring it up, and it's got a majority of the communities of interest considered.
That number, when you go, could you zoom in on what you just added in on? Okay, go up. There's those 2 blocks right there that we just added in. There's, what is it? It's 95 on my map, and then that one. No, those 2. I do think those are Angels. Those deserve to be with the Angels Camp District. I would guess. So I would take those out of D2. I don't agree with that.
If they were labeled in the right
And the
succession.
10 we'll figure out. So
So, can I ask that
would
question?
then add numbers onto me, that increases my numbers, would then I think we might, Marita, need to go back and look at Vallecito. Because I don't think, I think as long as Vallecito's whole, at least from the comments I've read so far, not anything new that since this has been posted, as long as they're intact, Vallecito I don't think matters. I don't think they're too upset with what district, as long as it's not split.
Doug is trying to point out too, no matter what, District 3 also needs to lose population, so we got to decide where. And if we're going to stick to the 4 corridor,
Gotcha.
the only place to lose is to District 4. If we're going to not pull out any of the outskirting
So then I
areas.
need to lose,
So right now, with losing Vallecito, District 3 is perfect with population, but then it puts you more out of whack and you need to lose
so then we
population.
need to go down and look at between
If we labeled
Gary
on this
and
map,
I.
number 4,
So if I
and they labeled
take
this 3,
the
this
north
2,
side,
this 1,
if I take the north side of Vallecito.
that already is
The
5.
what-
and
right-
that
Out
one
of
4.
that, oh,
No, right now, as the District
Don't
3
bring up
lies,
four.
District 3 is good with population. If we leave it at that, District 3 is set.
Uh,
Um,
and
where's
where's Vallecito?
Vallecito, south of the highway is in District 4, and north of the highway is in District 3. And with that line, District 3 is, got an
Is that-
acceptable range of population. But with the map we have right now, District 3 and I think District 5 are the only ones that have an acceptable amount of population. So further adjustments would need to be made.
Okay.
zoom in into the corner of Vallecito down by the bridge. See, so that lower corner, it cuts, D4 has to go out into D3 to get back to the Arola, not Arola, Moaning Cave Road.
I'm not seeing it. Which one are you referring to?
You gotta scroll down.
As it's drawn now, no.
Because you're not going down far enough.
Oh, okay.
So see Moaning Cave Road?
Yeah, but that block is following a road, is it not? Or, Doug, what is that block following on the eastern edge of the District 4-3 border? What is that? Yeah, that one. I think it's following a road.
Yeah, that's Paris Ferry.
So it's following Parrott's Ferry, so it,
That's a contiguous road.
to where she's referencing back into District 4, yes.
Quick question, and it's just so that I'm knowledgeable on it. Is there a rhyme or reason why you name a district 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Or is it just you put numbers to districts? So like in draft 4, could we, label, for example, in draft 4, could we label the top district up top, the 9149, 3? Could we name the next district at 9066, coming down the hill on the McCalmy hillside, District 2? The next one down is already District 5 at 9058. Why wouldn't we name the district here at 9016 that goes from Copperopolis up to, man, that's a horseshoe, but why wouldn't we name that District 1? Is there a rhyme or reason behind why you name one way or the other?
So I would say for my rhyme or reason, which is not necessarily what Sarah would suggest, is just the one that had the majority of the geographical landmass to begin with. That is what it went with. Whether we can just switch the numbers all around, I would ask Sarah to respond to that because I don't have a good answer.
I'm unaware of any provision of law that dictates what they have to be called. That's the first thing I would say. And I'm also unaware of anything that would preclude us from
Making it that way.
totally renumbering them.
Thank you, that's a perfect answer that I was looking for.
I'll leave it alone with that.
But we're back to one, and this juggle we're trying to do, which I don't see us not dropping all the balls.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I would ask city supervisor, I don't know how to do it without taking off one of the ones that San Andreas. I just don't know how else to do it.
I don't know how to do it either.
I have a question for Sarah. So if our deviation is larger than what we would like, I mean, who's really going to sue us?
I don't know, Jack.
No, I mean, is it going to be the state? Are we putting ourselves at litigation with the state or with our constituents?
It would be
If we're
whoever
reflecting-
decided to sue you based on it.
So population equality, it goes to the constitutional assurance or ideal of one person, one vote. So I could imagine that there might be a variety of individuals or entities that might assert they had standing to sue on that basis if that were not the case.
But then they could also sue and say we split communities up as well.
That's correct. I mean, somewhat,
Even
I
though
mean,
we're trying to, I mean.
I don't usually, you know, as I frequently say, it's a free country, and in America, people sue people over all manner of things all the time. Just as a reminder, though, you know, it's sort of the number one big overarching first criterion here is population equality to the extent possible.
And there is a lot of case law, right? That were jurisdictions
Yes.
were sued, and it was by the
Yes.
federal government, like, it wasn't just.
It could be the federal government, it could be the Angels Camp City, it could be your regular constituent. Everybody has the opportunity to sue on this if there's a perceived conflict.
What, I might be speaking out of turn. I would also think if somebody just didn't like our map for some other reason, it gives them justification to sue us on very good
And I
grounds,
understand that, but
potentially.
as we're looking at this, it's just like, really, we're gonna fight over 18 right there? You know, I'm just using that as an example. I mean, we're not talking thousands of numbers.
It's not where we need to make up the numbers right now. District 2's in need. That's where we need to do the work right now.
And we can no longer do our own census, right? Just had to put it on record.
Yeah, with the new legislation, it used to be, we were required to do the census every 10 years and look at our population. And then you could, mid-decennial, do your own census if you thought necessary, but the latest legislation did away with that. Just do your own census.
So if the law had been the same, you could do it in 5 years from now.
Yeah. But as far as I'm aware, that's out the window. There's no longer the option to just do your own.
Can you go back to San Andreas, please? Right here. You're going to stop there. Doug, can you take us back to San Andreas?
Oh, Doug, can you take us back
Sorry.
to San Andreas, please?
Show me where we are now. I know.
So if we left this draft one map in the area of San Andreas the way it is, I'm sorry, if we leave this draft one map in the area of San Andreas the way it is, and we did move some of District 2 back into District 4 around Angels Camp, that was the 19 and the 202 or whatever it was. Where does that put him? Because this started originally, this map put him at 9289.
So roughly 11% off, so I think there's still 900.
If we leave these, no, if we go back to the original draft 1 map, instead of cutting out the 271 and the 5.
Oh, to the original draft 1?
Yeah,
Original,
draft
that is
1.
8920.
He was at 9289, and then you took out.
Murphy's
the
Pines.
Yeah, and where does that put him if we left this the same in San Andreas?
Do you want us to back up what we've just done?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you able just to hit undo until we get there?
Can't we save this so we know
No.
where we've been?
No, okay. Can you pull open draft 1 again then? Is that messing you up? Just when we open draft 1, we can't make changes to that one without saving it as a different variation.
All the way down, Jason Road and down Highland.
Oh, boy. Is that the list of all the drafts you worked on? Glad I haven't seen a lot of them.
If they just didn't make any sense and cut too much stuff up, we didn't publish them.
You have been very busy since the election, before the election, and then after the election. Yeah, you logged a lot of hours.
Yeah.
The whole crew has.
Yes, yes. Okay, so say we take, can I see the population for District 2? So all they want to know is if we take the 190 off of District 2 here, where does it leave us? And it puts us at 8730.
Which is within the 5%. Yes.
It's within 5%.
But the disparity between the highest and the lowest is?
Do you want to save this as draft 1C?
Isn't that draft 1? Or is that taking out Murphy's Pines?
If we took out Murphy's Pines and saved it as draft 1C so that we don't change draft 1. Yeah. I don't want to change drafts. We've already shared with the public, that's all.
Agreed.
Salt City,
1C, right?
Yes.
Do we save where we were?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we did save where we were?
Yeah.
Because this, Gary's trying to illustrate a point, I think.
Oh, I do, going out.
Okay. So in this one, the only thing we want to do, Doug, is put Murphy's Pines back into District 3. And then can you hit the review for disparity? So I want to say this puts Murphy's District 3 too high. So we met the deviation, but it's the overall range that we're out.
Was that how Murphy's Pines add to District 3 to the point where they're on the high end? What's that total number on District 3 right now?
9428.
9428. Yeah, you said that earlier, didn't you? Thank you.
If we do find the numbers, I think we ought to take that little dog leg and put it back in 4 down the road if we do come up with more numbers. It's only 29 bodies, but it's always nice to square off property lines.
Which dog leg, sorry?
There's a 19 and 20,
Oh,
Those
the 10
two.
and 19?
yeah. I mean, when we get our numbers, I'd like to circle back and clean that up if we don't need them. Right now, we need them.
Okay. I was gonna say, I don't think Amanda would argue with you. We can move it right.
No, well, it'd certainly make it cleaner. Amanda, should we do that for just now? Just clean the lines on that.
So,
That's not bringing us in the right direction, but
Not at all.
I don't think 19 people are getting us
to
in
D4.
the
You're moonwalking right now.
can you select D4 and then put those in D4?
Oh, you want them in D4, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
And then we still need to go down in the corner.
Jennifer's Esmeralda.
It's deep.
So what do you guys want to look at now? Are we still working on 1C? Do you want to go back to draft 1B that we just created?
Anything there you're happy with, Mr. Garamendi?
Scroll back, it keeps going down to San Andreas. Can you scroll back up?
This is all Morrissey property.
What's our numbers? Our numbers are right on this one, right?
District 2 is at 8702 and District 1's at 9003.
Can you take out hang on a second, I'm sorry, I'm still looking at Angels. Again, we're back at San Andreas. What happens when you take the 271 right above the campus? Right there, Doug, and put that in D1.
That's
What do our numbers look like now?
Two's gonna be low.
It drops District 2 down to 8430,
80 what?
8,431.
So that's roughly 6%.
Um, uh, 7%, 0.069.
So that was 271, you just, that block of 271? You go back over to
Two?
the Hardy Reservoir area.
Actually, there's a 31 that's up there in the top corner of San Andreas. We talked about putting that in D2.
Yes, we did, that's correct.
Doug, can you put that in D2? Thank you.
That was 31.
We're at 8,462. Doug is,
That 23 right there? Between
Palmer Road in Watertown?
Yeah, Watertown. That takes, the Coal Ranch.
Half of it.
Yeah, got some on the other side of Paloma, it's more than half, but it's just a small slice on the other side of Paloma.
You get the building.
And the rest is Snyder Ranch.
Been driving by my whole life, at least know where it's at.
Okay, and then going north there by Campo Seco Road, yeah, it takes in Campo Seco. There was a 0, 16, 7, 13.
Wow. There's a 292 in there.
That goes all the way down to Valley Spring. Takes in-
I'll take that 13. Actually, does that actually work?
Take you around Hardy Lake.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take,
You want to take this?
hang on a second.
Take it.
Yeah, it's contiguous, that road is contiguous there. If you take the 7 next to it, it's not contiguous to get there, you have to go through district.
I'm sorry, did you want me to take them or not?
Take the
Take
13.
the 13 and the 3 zeros, that whole section right there, 13, 0, 0, 0.
And you might as well take the lake, yeah, thank you.
I now have
just
party.
make it contiguous around there. The situation we run into after that, though, is there's a 7 right below it, that you can't get to it without,
Going through.
yeah, you can't get to it without going through District 1 to get there.
Well, the Campo Seco Road does intersect there in between a 292, a 0, a 16, a 25, and a 7. I mean, yes, you can consider Campo Seco a community of interest, but, and I would say that San Andres is more of a community of interest than Campo Seco. It's a stretch, but I'm just saying.
It was-
So you could pull in a
It's up
25,
to
a
Jack.
16, so.
You can take Campo Seco, go down Campo Seco Road.
I think we're getting way too far from the core of the district.
Yeah, you're stretching way out.
I mean, this is,
Where's their numbers at right now with what you have?
8,498.
And that's almost 1,000 less than District 3 right now. A huge disparity.
It is 1,070 difference, yes.
Thank you, Rebecca. So where does Mr. Garamendi go next?
Well, if
Without-
you look at this map and you go to New Hogan Reservoir, District 2 is right there on Highway 12. There's a block that has 52 that's not
Right?
got any community, divvying up any communities. There's 52 more.
you may not be,
No, that chops, if I'm looking at the right draft, that chops up District 1. So that's literally splits District 1, I believe. I could be wrong, but,
Oh, yeah, it does. It does.
so you don't have any way to
Highway,
make
Going
it,
outside the highway, you cut off.
Yeah.
obviously.
I see your thought process, but,
I thought Rebecca said we were going to get a ferry to go across the lake.
There you go.
That'd solve all our problems.
Ferry across the Hogan.
Hey,
from where to
Hogan's a
where?
great lake.
That was actually running through my head too, if it makes you feel.
Just follow census block line across, and not.
Yeah, San Andreas.
Can you pull us in on San Andreas again? I'm sorry, I keep doing this. Just trying to create better numbers. So how many bodies do we need to pick up to fall within? We have 8462, we need to get up to 8608, right? To be within 5%.
You still have Miss Callaway up at 9,400, which creates part of the problem.
Well, you can, going back to what Jack said earlier on near San Andreas, there is that 191 block that takes in George Reed Road, Pool Station.
Down Church Street and straight into St. Charles. I count us as 146 short of the 5%
There's an 80
variation.
between Churchill also and Pool Station there that could add to it.
Yeah, but this 191 is taking in a lot of San Andreas. Taking in the churches, the cemetery. Even
The CCWD headquarters.
Well, it looks like, Gary, it looks like when you get downtown, when I zoomed in on this, it looks like right at the, right below, I think it's right below the churches, right below the Catholic church as you head down towards St. Charles. Those look like separate blocks. Looks like a 24 block. And then the 191 looks like it's probably taken in the firehouse. And then there's a 10, it's probably over by the Kellys.
that's community there.
Yeah. So when we pulled in that 567, did that include the 83 in the island in the middle in Toyanza? Did we count that? Yeah, it looks like it.
It does. It includes that 83 in Toyota.
Well, the 191 gets it done.
191 will get you there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you.
It's really not the community. What does that do to me?
Rebecca, if we move that 191 into D2, what does that do to D1?
It now has U1, its line of following the rest of the district is Pool Station, I believe. So now District 1 should be following Pool Station until it meets up with District 4.
What's the population?
What does it do to the population? District 2 is at 8689,
What's District 1's population?
9,016.
9,000 what?
16. So District 1 is good.
Hold on. 9060, you said?
9,016.
9016.
16. And that takes out 191. And then we still have to deal with Ben and his issue on the other end of District 5 and District 1.
I wish there was a better way to do this, but
What's the difference between District 2 and District 3 now? Because that's still a significant number.
Yes, it is.
Seven or 800 maybe?
Six.
So it's,
It's like
yeah,
800. So, District,
So even though we're within acceptable deviations, our overall range is not at an acceptable level because we're too far out, plus or minus, with District 2 and 3.
which is the problem.
So how are we gonna get anything from District 3 right now? It's why I keep bringing it up. You know,
So with this range thing, can you explain what the range problem is again, Rebecca, for the fifth time?
Really
Sorry.
wish I could explain it better. Go
I
ahead,
mean, I think
Sarah.
the way I would characterize it is that it's, there's a really large discrepancy. So for instance, with what we have drafted right here, there's a huge discrepancy between District 2 and District 3, for instance. It's not just that District 2 is well below the 961, it's that District 3 is really far above. So then if this were to be adopted as is, you know, somebody in District 3 has less representation than somebody in District 2.
So if the discrepancy was split between the other 4 districts, it wouldn't necessarily be an issue. It's the fact that it's split, that what is being taken from District 2 is in District 3, or vice versa. So that's part of the problem with the range check, is we need to even it out between those two. So even if it was evening it out by giving a little bit here, here, and here, that would be acceptable. But just taking a 500 and shifting it to District 3 is a problem.
So what about the sheep ranches? Avery or Murphy Sheep Ranch, and moving some of those lines?
So, Doug, we have a variation where we followed, what's that creek?
San Antonio Creek?
I think so, where we took from, yeah, right in there. And we pulled that over to District 2. I want to say it only picked up.
You already did that.
That isn't a variation that,
But that San Antonio Creek area is already in District 2 in this
Isn't
map.
that variation 4?
no, it follows San Domingo Creek. So north of San Domingo Creek in one of the iterations was put into District 2.
Isn't that already in this map? Isn't that represented by this right there?
No, right now it's,
in the wrong map, wrong river.
no, right now we're following
San Antonio?
we're following the school district boundary between 3 and 2
Okay,
right
so you're
now.
going right up the school districts, that's the fourth crossing.
So we could pull some of that area over to District 2. Do you want to go ahead and pull what's
How
north
many-
of
how many
San Domingo
bodies does-
Creek?
How many bodies does 3
Why are-
need to lose?
I'm just curious why we're following a school district line, because it doesn't change the school district and where you attend, even if it's a different
Because
district.
school district is something that each side of the line identifies with as the rest of their,
So you decide that was a community of interest?
I mean, the school district line's the line we've always followed, so in a sense, yes, it is a community of
I didn't
interest.
see any comments to that.
But Highway 4 corridor has always been split off by the school district line. I think the same reason that we follow the line is the same reason the school district follows the line, is accessibility. One side is more accessible to District 3, the other side is more accessible to District 2, and that's why the school district's drawn that as their boundary, and that's why we followed it for supervisorial districts.
That makes sense.
What is our, how many bodies does 3 need to give up? How many extra bodies do they have?
Ideally, they're at 9428, ideally between 250 and 300. At least, like, getting to the
can't-
300 range would be ideal.
And what about D4? Can they take them, or does that throw them off too?
Well, they're also thrown off. Ideally, they still would lose 100.
So they still need to lose 100.
Yeah.
So if we rotated everything clockwise,
We can go
sent
down and
100
look
over to
at,
Ben and brought down 254 from Marita to Amanda's district. Is there, you guys know your districts, is that something we can do?
And then you're going into the draft 4.
No, I'm not going to draft 4. I
No,
think,
when you rotate it and Marita gives me 250, it's gonna, sorry. When Marita gives me those 250, I'm gonna lose, you further dividing copper. And so then copper is gonna have to route and go toward Ben and Gay. And that's where
Yeah.
you were seeing that loop around Rancho Calaveras.
If you lose 250,
If she gives me another 250,
Gives you another
I'm
250.
gonna have to push down into copper, which further divides copper. And then copper is gonna have to get pushed back into D5 or D1.
Is this dying on the vine for D3 to have 9,400? Is that something that's really too skewed out from D2 and D3?
Right, because the 5% range was, the high side of 5% would be 9,514. So I guess what, you're talking about this variation and being out of skew, but what weighs more?
Well, again, I mean, the 5% we're kind of using as a rough upper limit. That's not actually in there. What is in there is that I'm sorry, and I apologize, I feel like a broken record, but I can't think of a better way to say it, is that they have to be as equal as possible. And I think on its face, it doesn't look particularly equal when we've got one district that has, 8,600 and another has 9,400. That's a pretty big swing when we're talking only 9,000 people.
About 8 to 9%. In that vicinity.
So pulling north of San Domingo Creek from District 3 to District 2 is 95. And then in one of the variations, we also pulled everything above, what's that road? Ben knows what it is.
What, Sheep Ranch Avery?
No, up north
where
of
are we
that.
at?
What?
Where are we at? I'm
North
sorry.
of Sheep Ranch Avery?
North of Sheep Ranch. Avery.
Swiss Ranch,
No.
Fulham?
That's south.
upper summit level, which comes
Yeah.
off, that comes off of Swiss Ranch, so.
So, and
that's
then
a-
we also pulled,
That's a
in one
line.
of the variations, we pulled north of Summit level from District 3 to District 2, and that really, it looks like a major change, but it only gains population 77 people. So,
But you grew up there, you know that's not a real, that's not.
She-
it's a
She
county
grew-
maintained road, so
One
I
month-
realize it's
1 to
not
2
a
months a year.
well-traveled road, but it is still a county
It
road.
is maintained.
During the summer, someone drives a grader up it.
We
I'm
don't
pretty
plow it.
Yeah, we do not plow, you're right. But I do make it through when I have to in the middle of the winter.
No wonder it needs to get graded in the summer.
Yeah, that is why.
So I'm not suggesting we draw our lines off of roads traveled that way, but it's not so I'm like, if we're really trying to shave things off, we have 77 people there, we've got 95 north of San Domingo Creek. There are spots to do it, so to say it's not possible, I don't know that's I don't know that we could go away
Which is
saying,
why
well, it
you
wasn't possible to even them out a little bit
Which
more.
is why you put Murphy's Pines in D2 before.
Because even though it identifies with Murphy's, identifying with a town is not in the criteria, keeping it whole is. So that is why all of Murphy's Pines went, because at least it kept it whole into one community and not, and split it up one way or the other. So that is the reason I chose anything I selected, regardless of where they identify with. The purpose isn't to say, I want to be in this district, I belong here. The purpose is keeping as many communities intact while equaling out population.
And I think that's a really important distinction. If you say this thing and this thing together, this area and this area together are a community of interest, then that's a valid thing to try to keep together. But to say this is our community of interest and we identify with that community of interest, so we should be kept together, that's not one of the criteria. And so that, and similarly, saying we identify as being in District 2 or District 4, whatever, is also not a criteria.
While we try to accommodate any public comment that said that, we did try to accommodate and at least say which drafts were drafted. It's not actually a criteria for drawing the maps.
I do not know anyone who takes the back road. They all come out onto French Gulch.
We all do for fun sometimes.
No comment.
But you're right, for path of travel, regular commuting, they're not roads often taken, which is why we've always had the Highway 4 corridor isolated and District 2 isolated separately.
What is the drama of keeping D3 and D2 that much difference in population? If their borders make sense to that community of D2 or D3. I mean, let's just take Murphy's Point. Okay, we're going to move them to D2 because they need people, but that's not where their community of interest is. So we're doing something to make who or what feel good versus the communities of interest.
It just goes back to the constitutional concept of every person having equal representation. So this is an extreme example, but let's say one district, whether it be a congressional district, a supervisorial district, a city council, that representative represents 10 people. And then another district, that representative represents 10,000 people. Those 10 people in the first district, they have the ear of their representative to such an extreme extent versus the 10,000, right? They've got one person looking out for only 10 people's interests versus 10,000. So
I understand that. But we're a rural county. We are all accessible to our constituents. We're not talking an urban area. And we're not talking all the rules, the laws that were established. So I'm saying if the people in D2 and D3 are represented by their total D2 or D3 community of interest, or 4 or 5, doesn't matter, what does that difference in population really mean? So we're fitting somebody else's criteria other than what the reality is on the ground.
So I recognize the logic and sort of the common sense to what you're saying, but I guess I would just say that someone else's criteria is constitutional criteria.
As opposed to your
Who's
sense.
the other someone else?
The government. It's the state, the federal criteria that's been put forward.
There is, as Ms. Turner referenced earlier, I mean, there is case law that where you have wide deviations in districts
Okay.
that does violate the Constitution and the principles of equal
Okay,
representation.
so how close is D2 to 9061?
In this draft, it's 372 people. I'm sorry, it's 372 people below in this draft. And then D3 is 367 people above.
I mean, I know this isn't going to be worth the hell of beans, but it's going to be a lot easier to find a representative in D3 than at 10,000 miles of D2. And the back roads I'll have to travel. Doesn't matter, it's side comment.
Right, again, it goes back to, we obviously have population dispersal issues in large geographic areas with lesser population.
Ms. Follendorf.
I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna go backwards from what we already settled earlier, but just to not continue to split that area, because it just doesn't make sense. What if that 202 and District 4 went to D1? That still goes into the city sphere of
Capella Park.
influence. And Capello, end up representing Capello, but it buds up to the back of San Andreas. Go down, it's below the 95, and there's 202.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll have to include that 0 up.
What do you propose? It goes
into yours.
We talked about earlier, that's down by Cosgrave Road.
yeah, that's the one that goes right to the edge of town. That doesn't help out D3.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
No, but it will, yeah, it will, because then it'll remove,
The differential.
It'll give you 200 more, and your disparity from 800 goes down to 600.
yeah.
I mean, I get the math, just as a citizen, it just doesn't make any sense.
And
8 communities already, part of San Andreas, part of England. I mean, that's a lot of masters.
I know. I'm just
What about-
trying to, from a mathematical, that was,
Get the math.
and then you still are between the two of you splitting Pole Station, San Andreas, that area, yeah. On the back end.
Can we just put in a new road to Murphy's Pines?
You let us use your PG&E money?
We can burn the car.
I've already spent it on cheap rent.
I don't know, boss. I mean, if that's what we're down to, we're just trying to figure out the disparity, we're done pretty good. Starting.
Well, there's one other disparity that needs to be remedied. And that is if you go to District 1 going down towards Copper, point that goes there between Rock Creek Road and the police station. Highway 4, Rock Creek Road and Highway 4. There's 20 there. Yeah, that needs to go into District 4. You got 3 districts right here just coming together almost in copper. I don't think that's correct, that's right. I think I need to get out of there, District 1, if we stay with this map. I'm sorry. Sorry, Susan, you're on your way.
That's all right, but we did get a complaint from someone that said.
That 20 needs to go into District 4 because that's going into copper, and right now copper is being focused on in 3 different districts, 4, 5, and 1. And 20 is not going to matter to me one way or another on the amount of numbers that I have. So that 20 block needs to go into 4. And then Amanda and Ben can discuss whether they're fine with what's going on in their district of Coffman. That takes me.
I would have a question on where our population is at right now for each and every district with the work that's been done so far.
District 1 is 8,996.
Just start again, I'm sorry.
District 1,
8,996. District 2, 8,689. District 3, 9,428. District 4, 9,338. And District 5, 8,855. 8,855.
and what was number 2 again?
Just go, let's start over from the beginning and go a little slower.
I need to get what you have for District 2.
8689.
8689? Thank you.
Yeah, for 3.
And my concern, look where this is, and I know that it'll jump my numbers up, I get that, but you're still splitting copper up.
And 8855.
And 8855.
See, we,
Doug, can you
No,
put the subdivisions
At
back
all,
up again?
just because of where District 3 sits with the 9428. And the disparity between any one of ours on the west side of the county.
And, excuse me, and District 4 has a larger number too, but it's closer than the 9428.
Yeah, District 4 and 3 are very high. And the other ones are fairly low. I mean, even on the closer end, we're pushing towards about 5% with the 8996.
We could get some of the
If we could get some of,
District 3 into District 2 somehow.
and then work a little bit of the District 4 into District 5 possibly, and we'd be closer.
Part of my concern is we're dealing with numbers, not communities. And I think we have to take that into consideration. I'll give Jack X number, but what does that do to communities? Communities within 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. We're so focused on numbers that if we're close to where we should be, to the 9061, then why can't, and we're not breaking up general communities of interest, a community being a D1, 2, 3, 4, 5, why can't we do that?
So again, to be clear, a community is not tied to a district and a community is not tied to other communities. The goal is very much to keep communities of interest or neighborhoods intact with themselves, with each other, but not necessarily to keep them with other communities.
Why?
I do want,
Ask the legislature.
There's nothing saying that.
can I add in this iteration, Vallecito is currently split and it is in District 3. So to even out, in one of them, we went up to the highway, that was 1B. We went back and decided, well, let's just talk about Murphy's Pine, so we started 1C. So we do still have portions of Vallecito in a District 3 right now. So if we
Okay.
didn't want to split off of some of those other areas bordering District 2, that might be a suggestion. It just puts District 4 further out of whack, which something's
That's
got to
right.
give.
So, I think
So-
Amanda and I are okay with Vallecito either being split or in 3 or in 4. But if we move it from 3 to 4, then it makes her more out of whack in Copper.
Yes, but
Well,
she does.
and that's where 5 picks up in Copper, and that's the domino effect I was talking about earlier. So, and all what you're saying is, you're not okay with something being split off for 2, but you're okay for Vallecito being split up for 3 and 4, just because of the out of the whack population there. All in all, it's got to go one way or the other,
Well-
and the population has to move closer to even if we disagree with it.
But I think everyone's looking at this part of Vallecito. What no one's realizing is when Marita and I are talking about splitting Vallecito, we're talking about 6 Mile Village, we're talking about Red Hill. There's so much more to Vallecito than just that Main Street. And so that's where I think maybe everybody else doesn't understand where we're on the same page. We get sections of Vallecito is going to be split, i.e. 6 Mile Village and all of that out in that area. So as long as we can keep most of Vallecito intact as much as possible, meaning the Main Street, we're okay with the outside being kind of where it has been. And it's been split for,
It's been split off.
It's been split off.
Split off for 10 years.
yeah.
It's already,
Vallecito Cutoff Road going out there and back into the highway.
that's.
No, that doesn't make sense. That
That
should
would make
stay.
sense. That's part of the core
Yeah.
along the other side of the highway.
So So for this,
But I just want to make that clear to the rest of the group, when we're talking about splitting, we're not talking about Main Street, we're being general.
for this version, do you want us to go in and split it at the highway again? Because that does get D3 back to an acceptable range. It just means we need to work with D4 pulling away.
And I have an idea for that later, but.
Based on public comment, they want to keep that. What you see now is how they want to be whole, but then,
This version did not start with Vallecito Hull, so we never did. So to address that, we did not. Draft 1 did not keep Vallecito intact.
from
So
the
right now
current
they're
comment-
split.
Sorry, from the
They're the s-
government yeah.
Yes. So
They're split at the highway.
right now they're not because we started a new draft where we,
But what do you have, yeah, what do you?
can we
If-
go into Vallecito and make sure it's what
Well,
the supervisors want?
I think we don't have much of a choice from my perspective, you know? If we're gonna keep working on this map the way we are, there has to be a shift of population from District 3, no matter what our personal thoughts are. You know, and that easiest grab is for Amanda to grab at part of Vallecito, trying to keep it intact. Let's put, I mean, we could go up to 300 people, you know, but you won't, I don't think you'll get that many out of that area. I haven't really looked into that area as in depth like some other supervisors. But once you do that shift, then there's a shift where District 5 can grab at a partial population of Copperopolis, pushing it, like, maybe making Copperopolis whole, possibly, and bringing your numbers down. And then at that point, I can give Mr. Toffanelli a few more over there on the west side of the county near 26, and then we could even out our populations more, a little bit, you know? I think there's a domino effect there that we can actually work with. I don't know, Rebecca, does that make sense to you?
It's
Well, then
fine, I
we go
just
back
wanted
to
to make sure everyone knew where we stood with Vallecito currently. That's, was
Yeah.
my main purpose.
So I'll leave it at that. Amanda, you make the decision with Marita about how,
Well, I
You
think
wanna
what
split up
at least in
Vallecito.
D4 constituents need to realize is either way we move in District 4, either Vallecito or Copper is going to suffer. That's a fact. No matter how we run these numbers.
how does Copperopolis suffer? It's split already in half with this line already? So
Yes,
if we
go
make it
down.
whole in 5, then I guess you say they're suffering because they're represented by District 5.
No. that-
I had to say
Good,
that,
I
because it was
know.
kind of the way I heard it. Ralph, do you feel like you'll be underrepresented by me? Nope.
I'll take the fifth on that.
Smart call, Ralph, I appreciate that.
But I just look at, like, while it makes sense with the Highway 4, you're following the highway, but you're still splitting Copperopolis in that little section where the 77 is.
That's about 143 people in that area in my head.
But I'm open to seeing how that would look. It just, I think the public just need to realize,
So the main issue we have with keeping Angel and Copper together is, without shaving off, it's the same thing we're talking about in District 3, without shaving things off, Angels and Copper can no longer be together because both of their populations are too high. So either something gets shaved off, or Copper needs to completely separate from Angels. That's what we're seeing. So, and again, yes, Copper as a whole is a community, but can we just start piecing together all these subdivisions and saying this is one giant community, because that makes it really hard to work with the numbers? Or is there communities inside of each of these communities that really need to identify together so that we can find the proper splitting point and put one on one side and one on the other? Because as it stands, Angels and Copper, just together, if we included everything we think associates with them, the population is too high. And I don't mean to just put it bluntly like that, but it is what it is. And so while we recognize there's communities that identify as a whole, just like Sarah said with San Joaquin, Stockton is split 3 ways. I'm sure they say, hey, we're Stockton, we belong together, but they had to split up and say, what's the communities inside of here? Because what we're given as communities is too large of a population base to work with and keep everyone happy, and then still find our equal population.
I
And
guess,
for
Sorry,
what
I
it-
don't-
No, I agree, and for what it's worth, Stockton, like I said, it's next door to us, but obviously a very different situation than we are, but there's more rural counties that have the same issue. If you look at Tehama County's current maps, city of Red Bluff is split between 2 or 3 districts because that's where there's the biggest population base. Everywhere else is more dispersed. So, I agree, I think that's why community of interest and neighborhoods are the higher priority than a town, a city, a CDP, for that reason.
I guess what,
And that then becomes what would happen is Angels just get split between 4 supervisors.
Well, not necessarily 4, but and some people think that's a bad thing, but then Angels would have more representation on the Board of Supervisors possibly, and that could be a positive thing on another aspect.
So I guess to
Not
20,
to be argumentative.
so 20
Yeah, no,
years ago, or at some point, Valley Springs grew in population so much that now it's acceptable to split it up. Because a lot of people would argue Rancho Calaveras, all of those subdivisions are Valley Springs. At some point, we decided the populations of Valley Springs was too high to keep whole. And that's essentially what's happening in Copper right now as well. It's shifting that same way. It's too high in population to keep in one district, but it's too low to make up its own district just yet. And so just like we see this population condensing, whatever, grouping in Rancho Calaveras, we're going to see the same thing happening in Copper at some point because, face it, our population is where it's easy to commute from in our county. And so it's a rough interim period, I think, because at some point we've got to give a little because Copperopolis keeps growing. Maybe 10 years from now they'll be their own supervisorial district, but right now they're just too large to stay completely with Angels. And I get the Highway 4 corridor. It's so funny. This is when they do, way off base, COVID reporting, it just cracks me up. Every other area gets their own town name. Whenever they report for Highway 4 corridor, it's Highway 4 corridor. So there is something to that. Highway 4 corridor is a community of interest. They do associate with themselves. They've self-associated that way, deciding that Highway 4 corridor in this county identifies. So it makes sense to keep that intact to some level as well. And I'm getting off topic, but those are my own, but it's like, it is funny because we do self-associate. So I think we need to keep that in consideration, and it's not crazy to just go, no, we can't put West Point and Arnold together, because
that's crazy.
anyways. So I think we're on the right track, but we either have to shave something off or we have to completely change our thought process.
so why can't we just put this at rest and let Amanda think about, because she's the one that'll be significantly impacted, and do you want some time to think about it and talk to your communities?
I think there were a lot of comments that were done in the last week that were not included and reflected in some of these maps. So I think we can wait, and then Becky can add that for the next meeting. And then our comments here, I'm fine with them. I think we just need to wait for some of those comments to become public. But Becky's right. I mean, that's why I understand that the draft map before puts a lot of us out of our district, but that's why this conversation here is why I supported draft 4 earlier this morning. It's because at some point, regardless on the Highway 4 corridor, we're gonna have to get split up. The population is just gone up so high on this side of the county, it's gonna get split regardless. So what makes the most sense to keep as as we can as a whole for the community, regardless of the seat aspect. I don't like that, but that's why I keep going back to the 4, because it makes more sense. And that's where I think Ben keeps saying to do the clockwise. At the end of the day, it's gonna end up looking like draft 4 to keep them whole.
I mean, not exactly draft 4. I was
Are
using
we talking
that.
about this draft 4 or is there a different
Yeah,
draft
that's the
4?
4 they're talking about.
That's the
right?
This is
4,
the one we're
but,
talking about?
Yeah.
well, it's not gonna look like that necessarily,
No,
but that's
and-
Sure as hell
that's the
not.
idea on the
Well,
shirt.
and you got all that high country, and we
You don't
recognize
understand, you can't get from here to here.
the summit level road.
No, Sheep
You
Ranch
just need
Avery.
to get a Jeep,
Sheep
Jack,
Ranch
You just need to get
Avery
a
Road's a road that's
and
open
put some
year-round.
tracks on it.
Yeah, but that's in District 3, not in,
Yeah, anyway, I think we made great progress. Mr. Chair, I
I
think we
don't
made
think so.
great progress. I think we have.
No, I have a question before we just say we made great progress. Putting it to rest, are we putting it to rest with the current draft up there right now? With what
I think so whatever you guys leave with today, I would like to put out as another alternative map for the public to make comment on and look at. But before we leave, I don't know if we finished. Is Vallecito staying the way it is? Are we putting it back whole? Are we splitting at the highway? And then the difference, and I don't mind doing that
Thank you.
not in a meeting. And then the other is, are we keeping
No.
the division between District 1 and
If we're-
5 the way it is, or
If
should
we're
we go
making
make
these
adjustments
changes,
there?
we're doing it in open session right now. We are not going back and having someone make changes out of the meeting.
No,
We're
but-
not doing that.
No, she has to reflect the public comment until the next meeting.
So all of the current drafts, I will make additional iterations based off of public comments. This draft, it totally can be your draft, 1C, but are we changing Vallecito lines, or are they staying the way they
Can you blow
are?
up Vallecito, please?
Thank you.
Not physically blow it up. Which might solve part of it.
Zoom in.
But that's true, you get the store there.
Can we zoom into Vallecito so they can look at it again?
I can't see the numbers there, I'm gonna have to go to this.
I'm still concerned about Moline Cave Road. But I think that's what we had in the original, I think that was what was in draft 1 anyways. But
Okay,
I'm
so
still worried about that.
this is the draft that public comment submitted that they want to see Vallecito put back together. Even, they didn't care which direction it went. So 24 and 60, those population blocks, at the very least, would like to be part of Vallecito because it splits right in the town center downtown. So I would suggest either we put them back or we cut it at the highway like you guys suggested earlier.
Put it back whole. And I don't think, put it back whole just for this, just put it, yeah.
Okay, on
Because-
which side of the line?
Highway?
Page three, page three. So
Is
the
it going
24
whole
and the
into
60
District 4 or going whole into District 3?
Whole going into District 4.
4, yes.
4.
4, thank you. Can we take everything south of the highway like we did in the last iteration, Doug, and put it into District 4? Sorry, I just wanted to make clear because this was a change we did earlier and then we never came back to it. And that probably gets District 3 to an acceptable range of population is my guess as well. Yes,
So oh yeah, District 3 is real close now.
yes.
So this is where it comes into, where do we, so the shift now goes from 4 to,
So then it's going to be yes.
but between you and I, and also Mr. Toffenelli is a consideration into this factor, because he may be able to need to pull some population. And I mean, that's going to be the easiest fix for us moving forward based on the rendition of the map that we started out with. So it's going to be all down there, south and west of Angels Camp with District 1 and 5. I'm gonna go there on this map.
It has almost 9,600.
No, Marita?
9176.
Yeah, that's where Amanda's.
Rita, I mean, Amanda.
Yeah. So, this is where we could, I mean, how many people are to, there's a lot of people in Copperopolis. Well, Burns Ferry and south, how many total people are in that area? It's gonna push us over the number I'm looking for. Yeah, 178, no, we can't look at that road. It's just impossible to not cut up Copperopolis.
Well, Gary, and I feel your pain.
Well, it's already cut up between, in this map, it's already cut up between District 4 and I, or District 5. I need to stop saying names, I need to start saying numbers. Yeah, you know, because that's my consideration, is numbers, not,
Becky, what is the
Names.
total population of Copper?
Offhand, I don't know, but it's like 5,500 or something.
Okay, well, right now, District 2 is at 8689. District 5 is at 8855. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay, so if you go down to where I took and gave Amanda the 20 to get out of Copper, get 3 districts out of Copper, right above it, there's a 9 and 121. That's Salt Valley area. We can move those to District 5. And that would,
Yeah, but then your number.
Then your number's going down.
7,000.
Where are you gonna pick it up?
I'm gonna go down to 88, about 88.55, around where Jack's at. And then when we pick it up, what I was trying to do is get him over to the other side, bordering District 4, to take up some more of this rural area over here, to add his numbers up. And then he would add the numbers, the 83, 41, 48, 32. Then we go back to Rancho and Valley Springs area, La Contenta area, and make up the difference. That's what I was trying to do. to get
I get your thought process. We need to, you're trying to get in District 4. We need to take a quick break. 5-10 minutes? 10 minutes. Thank you. I had her. Welcome back. Easy. All right. So we're at the point with district. Let's see. Our numbers changed with that last shift in Vallecito.
True.
So can I please have the total number for District 3 and District 4, so that I can adjust my numbers?
Doug, can you share your screen again?
Zach can put it up, Ken. Come in, Zach. There we go. District 3 is 9176, and District 4 is 9590.
9590.
Becky, can we play with your idea of going down the Highway 4 south?
Yeah, just wherever you want to start, what we need to do now is pull from District 4, and really, it can go to District 1, 2, or 5, because they are all low in population.
Can you pull the 202 and put, just for games, just for games?
Cascade Road, 202.
Yeah,
Doug, 202 next to the city limits, it goes in and picks up Capella Park. Can you move it into District 1?
No, District 2.
2 or 1, doesn't
2 or
matter.
1. He has less numbers than me by 300, but okay.
You're saying the
Right, I think-
park is not in District 4
I-
anymore?
Yeah, but it's not even in the city limits anyways.
I know, but
I know, I just for this game purpose to keep Diamond 20 in,
Should I go up to the Humane Society too, with our,
yeah,
yeah,
and Angels Vet
that's right.
and Meekum Ranch Road.
That in itself, as it sits right now, at least gets the deviations all in check for the population. It's just now, do you want to go and try to pull Diamond 20 back into Copper? And if we
Out
want to
of
go
5?
shift any of this purple down here that's District 1 right now into another district, that's an option when we're done, I think, for focus purpose, trying to keep trying to keep District 4 population down, we should do
Right.
first, and then we can adjust between the other 3 districts.
9388 right now, 9388. District 1 went to 9198.
So now you're higher than,
You can actually see that? Wow.
you're higher than Marita now.
I know, I'm like,
Alrighty.
they're reading these things.
And then that's, ideally, the Diamond 20, the 77 to keep Copper whole. So if that moved back into D4, where can I give up in another section of D4?
That surrounds a bunch of numbers sitting here, the 20, the 27, the 12, the 13, the 16, and puts it on an island in 5 that's going to even, yeah.
Yeah, but go into
Yeah,
that
just-
block, that
Do we want to zoom into Diamond 20?
subdivision block.
Yes. The 77 is not part of Diamond 20,
Got
is
it, sorry, okay, yes, sorry, Ben, thank you. Now that you zoomed in, thank you, yeah.
So those ones in, I mean, this will bring my numbers down, but Amanda would like to keep that whole in 4, so can we take all those that were in that
Subdivision.
community of interest block that was just showing? That one right there, that's in the pink up above there, can we move all those numbers into 4, please? And possibly,
Everything but the 77, right?
right,
Okay.
which creates a disparity for me, but I could pick up, because Toffanelli's a little bit high, I could pick up something around Rancho now, and we could get closer to our numbers. Ha 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 ha.
Give me the lake, you have the lake.
I already have the lake. The lake is 0 on
You
population.
have the ferry across.
Oh, right.
Rebecca Turner. Name it out,
Keep taking this, Rebecca, the 14, the 15, and the 10?
Yes. Yes, keep taking the 14, the 10,
Yeah.
the 16.
But we still have the same problem with Ben's district, because he's in the same predicament I am, like Copper Angels, even Copper Rancho Calaveras is gonna drive the population up. Copper's just gonna, no matter what way.
Rancho's gonna go up, it's not like Concord. I think Concord's gonna go faster.
Can we zoom into the highway where it gets closer to the Copperopolis downtown? What do you want to do with those blocks? There's only 4 people on that side? Anything, or
I
do you
mean,
like that
that's
split?
insubstantial. Go ahead and click on those arrows, bring them in, and then what's that big area right there? I need,
That's the 77.
oh, that's a 77.
That's 77.
Oh, there it is,
That
the
was it.
77.
So you got that little great census block where it went.
I don't even know if I can drive there right now.
You know, the last peninsula.
That's a little peninsula in the Copperopolis.
It's the Cabo.
I really want to meet the people that drew these census blocks.
I think,
The same people are going to sue us.
That's the Cabo of the Baja.
Right, they're the ones that complicated it.
What are the numbers right now with doing that, just with how it sits at the time?
Just before the back.
Well, it did a little bit. She's up to 95.45 again?
You're down to 86, 90, you're down to 86, 98.
Yeah. What it comes down to is, all in all, no matter how we break it down, we cannot keep all communities of interest whole. That's your experience, Rebecca, is it not? Through all the renditions that you've worked through, there's always something that's going to be somewhere
Well,
an issue.
That District 5 number didn't change. It was 86,
88.55 is what it was.
86, 98, and you just took a bunch of number out of it.
It went down from
Oh, I'm sorry,
88.55.
it went down from 88, you guys look at it.
So that puts Ms. Fullendorf's, or I'm gonna retract that statement. It puts District 4 above our threshold on total population.
And if we put all Vallecito whole
the other way?
back to D3, that just puts Marita, then
Over the
it's
threshold.
going to go back between the two of you.
And then we're trying to skim off those roads you guys don't want to skim off of again.
So maybe this is what we just need to sit on and think about. I don't know. I mean, no matter what, there's going to be a community split.
Can we put that part of Copperopolis that we just took off and put in 4 back into 5 for right now, and then we can sit on it at that point with the numbers closer on population? I'm asking, do you have the appetite that? Ms.
I mean, as
Fulmer?
long as the public understands that the exercise that we're going through right now, but I'm afraid that we're going to get more comments, and I think we're going to get more comments. It's not going to be good. So despite the numbers, I think we need to recognize that needs to stay whole with copper, and then we need to work on the other aspects of it, because I don't think
What
we'll
other
have the
aspects?
same issues in Vallecito.
With the exception that Vallecito's been split for years anyway. So it's not that it's something new.
Yeah.
It's something that, I mean, we felt they should be a community of interest, but if that's not the way it's going to turn out, I don't think that they've suffered being in 2 districts.
But if you
But the
put that
comments-
back up there, beyond the comments, the population is too high for District 3 unless you're willing to go across that mountain range on Swiss Ranch Road or Upper Summit Road, which everyone was against. The number is too high on population, no matter which way we dissect it for District 3. So
or we start looking back at those numbers that I pushed back on earlier with Jack, if he wants to come to Murphy Grade Road. Because I gotta,
You guys are gonna have to do what Carrie and I just went through in San Andreas. Unless you guys get better.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Yes, you're going to get the comments coming down the pike regardless of where we do it. Now we're going to get the comments from San Andreas for one, because it was just split up. So, and we're going to get the comments from Copperopolis, and we need to consider them as we move forward. But the fact is, the only way to get this to a close to even numbers is to do that type of thing, like which was done in San Andreas. So, I mean, you can keep saying you want to bring it back and you're worried about the comments. We got to do it anyway. If this is the route we're going,
yeah, and I just
Those
gave
are
you
the-
a solution, add the 10, the 19.
Okay, well, I can get you.
Do you want us to go pull those out right now?
Huh?
Do you want us to pull those out right now and put them with District 2?
Well,
Yeah. Oh, well, Jack doesn't want to. I'm just saying,
Oh,
I'm giving
okay.
a solution, and the only, we either further break up Vallecito or we break up Copper. And either way, we just gotta know that whatever we end with today, by splitting those two groups up, which is not favorable, we're gonna have to deal with the public comment consequence and figure out these numbers. I don't know what else to carve out of D4 if no one wants.
District 2's population and District 5's population with what's there right now are within 9 population. 8698 and 8689. Ms. Fullendorf, to get this closer, you would have to give some to Mr. Garamendi and some to me at the same time to get both those numbers to come up closer to equal.
No, and I just said that.
Okay, I apologize.
I did, and Jack's
Alright.
saying no,
Okay.
is what I'm trying to say. I gave a solution.
All right, no, I understand,
Yeah.
I understand that. Why not?
Look, the action's down in Copper. You're asking this district, District 2, to represent 8 distinct communities, part of San Andreas, and now part of Angels Camp. I think if you try to be everything to everybody, you're nothing to anybody. So I think that is too dispersed. It doesn't make sense. It has too many different communities. This is by far the largest geographic area that has to be covered. So I just don't think that makes sense. I think that you guys need to go through the same process in Copper or Vallecito that we did, that Gary and I just went through in San Andreas. And I understand that it sucks, but
Well, let's go back to the Copper area. Let's go back to the Copper area and just back where District 1 comes in to District 4. I just gave that 20. There's a 121. There's a 9, a 121 that could go into District 5. Right there where the cursor is, those two could go into District 5. That brings him up to about 87 something. Let's say 8828. That brings him up to 8828.
Which is close for me.
That, I mean, we're getting
Which-
close, we're getting closer there. And then the District 4, that's way over.
Go down to the 32 across Highway 4. go down further. Not that 32, south to the county line. Oh, sorry. South to the county line. There's another 32.
The other
Go,
south.
move up. No, move
South.
down. Go the opposite of what I started on. And then go towards Tuolumne County. There's that 32 right there. Put that in D5.
How do I get there?
It's that little strip there and at the bottom. I will go all the way as fast as I can. That's a 0 at the bottom there, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't change my numbers.
It made you 9513. Actually, there's 2 zeros there. You can have part of Tolic Lake.
So, we're still sitting here, and I understand your position, Mr. Garamendi, but the disparity between District 4 and District 2 is more substantial than all the rest when it comes to the population number, which is our primary issue here.
How are we doing as far as deviation, Counselor? Are we within the range?
Can we run that thing again?
Will you run the review? No.
Sorry, I'm not that good at math, but I'm guessing it's not there.
Oh, it is. Oh, it's 453?
So it's within the variation?
Overall range check is X'd.
Well, I'm finding under 5. I'm finding under 5.
Right, and so 4.99 as opposed to 4.11.
Which again, 5 is not a
Which
magic
is
number. We're using it as I know.
9.10% deviation between District 4 and District 2, which
It's within the parameters.
I don't think it is. Is it?
4.99 is less than 5.
No, the deviation between the two districts is another consideration, Mr. Garamendi. So you're 4.11 under.
Can you keep going up until it works,
She's
Doug?
4.99 over. So at that point, you have a 9.10 deviation between District 4.
We're like a 9.5% overall deviation.
9.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Put it at 9.5 and see if it works,
So
Doug.
it's within the parameters.
Right?
The parameters
Those
of
are
what?
not, I don't know how to say this. Those aren't real parameters. We're using 5% as what we think would be sort of the upper limit of what would probably be justifiable. I can't give you a magic number. Courts have held that certain numbers are too high. There is no,
In your presentation, you guys gave us a range of 8608 to 9514, right? And these are all within that range.
is that,
5% above 0.
So that is where I said in the beginning, I started with a 5% deviation was fine. And then as I'm looking at some of these others, the actual deviation is, if you're going to be 5%, you can't be, that would put us at an overall 10% deviation if we allowed everyone to be 5% off. So overall, we'd be at 10. And if we're fine with an overall deviation of 10, you guys could adopt something like that. Is it a safe spot to be? Probably not. So my goal was to try to keep us in the actual 5% deviation, which means we're looking at plus or minus half of 453. So no district should be plus or minus higher than 225 if we wanted to be at a real 5% deviation overall.
Double check that math, but
I'm fine where I'm at right now, it's 7.
yeah, District 1 is almost perfect.
Anyways, so I think it
Almost.
comes down to the end of the day, if you want to look and say, we're going to go with a 10% deviation, that's within your judgment call. I don't know that I can give you guidelines because there is no law that specifically says you can be within a certain deviation. The issue is when I started looking at this 5% that I didn't think we were in line enough was I was looking at counties who were looking at 1%. They wanted their deviation to be no more than 1% off. And so I'm going, how come we are sticking with the 5% that we've always done and all of our neighbors are looking at a lower deviation? So I asked Sarah to look into it further as well. I don't know if I should be going down this. And that is where she started pulling up case law that counties were getting lawsuits for being more than 3% off, and so that's just, it's up to you guys, yeah.
That's our 10% swing. So we could either raise me up or bring her down, or some combination of the two. Right?
What are the size population-wise of the counties at 3%? I mean, is it substantially more than the 45,000 we have?
I don't know the answer to
That
that.
could be a tremendous amount of people if it's like in the valley somewhere in a large
Right.
population, or San Francisco. It could be very large. 3% could be more than the 300 we have here.
It could. I mean, I know that it's not, I recognize that it's much more satisfying and clearer, and I wish that there were some statutory number that we had to work with. What I can say is that they should be as even as possible, and to the extent they deviate from being equal, it needs to be for a reason.
So it's technically, we're not allowed to just say, here's a number, meet that number. That's not really the end goal. That's what we've always done, but that's not what the law is. The law is be as even as possible and then justify your deviation. So if we're going to deviate further than being exactly equal, we just need justification for doing so. So as much as I would like to say it's just a number, let's go with that. If you guys want to set just a number, that's like your call, drawing the lines. Our goal is this.
Well,
But we should have justification.
Okay.
I got a good question. In the 2010 census, you have the numbers here that were within the districts as they were approved, correct? Right here on your current map says 2010. Was that the numbers of the census after you approved the districts? Because you have a 9394 in District 1 and an 8245 in District 2 under 2010. Was that approved?
I'd have to go back and actually look at it. Keep in mind, we're using 2010 population, but we're using 2020 census blocks. So the
okay,
two don't
gotcha.
necessarily match up. So I'd have to
Okay.
pull in the 2010 census blocks to get the accurate
Yeah,
population.
that totally throws sideways my question, because if that wasn't the case, then I would be like, oh, we approved this with a larger gap in 2010 than we do now, but that's not the case. The census blocks moved.
And maybe somebody here recalls what that was. I believe the deviation we did in 2010 was the 10%, so plus or minus 5% on either district.
It was.
That is what I recall that we did, and that was the guidelines I was following initially. And then I couldn't find any evidence that backed up us using that 10%, and that's where I started pulling away from. I don't know that I should just follow what we've always done, because I couldn't find any justification for doing so.
It had to do, I'm sorry, but it had to do with not splitting up communities. And I think that's our justification of what we're trying to do here, to where we're at. We're trying to keep intact the communities as much as we possibly can. So that's a justification. And I think that's what we used last time, Rita. That's why Tom went all the way down into copper. We didn't want to split it up and keep it all together. And the only thing with the small lock antenna was split up a little bit. And I think Rancho had a little bit that was split up. But other than that, we kept everything intact.
And can we use the argument for Summit Road as impassable X amount of times out of the month to justify why we can't move No, I'm being,
No, it's a
the
very,
more-
I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing because that's a really great question, and I got into a very nerdy
because
legal debate with a
geographically,
colleague about.
it doesn't make sense, like,
It has to on the cheap.
So,
the reason why I'm asking,
so I think technically it just matters that it's touching, even if it's not passable by a road, but I do think it's obviously ideal if there is actually a traversable public road connecting the district. That's certainly preferable.
okay, the reason why I'm asking that is because if we can justify that, then we could probably solve the Vallecito and Copper, and we can justify Marita's numbers going up, and then pushing down. That's where I'm going with this. If we can justify the Summit Road or any of those roads impassable during the winter, or majority of the time out of the year, then it makes complete sense why D2 cannot access the other side, increasing those numbers and then push down and keep the 4 corridor communities intact, whether they're in D3 or in D4. And I think that should be somewhat of a baseline argument, going back to what Gary just said from the last time around, keeping communities. And I think more of those is what we just need to focus on and build those arguments. Because if this isn't, it's just not going to work.
Terry Woodrow cannot go from one part of her district to the other in the winter.
She can hardly get to Markville sometimes.
Right.
We're the
So,
opposite.
And that-
that
there's-
almost kills that argument, except,
Well, except for that's an exceptional situation with Alpine County where the only road going through with 1,280 people in the county,
It
it's,
gets closed. Caltrans closed it.
right.
Just looking at this, it's not ideal. We're just playing the numbers. Even this,
I agree, it's not ideal.
None
But
of
the
it is.
numbers, the numbers are the guidelines that have been given to us.
No, then it just goes back out to the public. You need to figure out what you're comfortable with, because we can only go so far.
Right, well, we're so far right now. If the board's okay with it, let's put this to rest right now, because I feel like we're to the point where we're not getting anywhere, except for talking about the same thing we talked about from the beginning. And we'll put it out for more public comment, because apparently there's a lot more work for us to be doing.
So are we publishing this draft for public to comment on?
I'm a yes. Ms. Follendorf?
Yes.
Mr. Toffenelli?
Yes.
Mr. Toffenelli says he's a yes. Mr. Garamendi?
Yes.
Ms. Callaway?
yes.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to Supervisors Announcements. We'll start with you, Ms. Callaway.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Garamendi?
I'm not required to report anything.
I have nothing to report. Mr. Toffenelli?
Monday, Maureen and I had a Central Sierra Child Support Agency meeting. And I have a meeting with Terry Woodrow concerning Mountain Valley MS on Friday.
Nothing
Thank
to
you very
report.
much.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Supervisor Follendorf. That will be the end of our meeting. You'll have a good day.
Good, if it's the